Is it really surprising that the most powerful man in the world should be a figure of controversy?
We, as a population on this planet, have been looking for a savior.
We're talking about a being whose very existence
They are not telling us the truth.
challenges our own sense of priority in the universe.
Human beings have a horrible track record of
Tragedy.
following people of great
Power
power.
corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Chaos.
Maybe he's just a guy trying to do the right
We
thing.
know better now, don't we? Devils don't come from hell beneath us.
They brought their war here.
No, they come from the sky.
The world has been so caught up with what he can do that no one has asked what he should do.
That's how it starts. The fever, the rage, the feeling of powerlessness that turns good men cruel. Tell me, do you bleed? You will.
Greetings and welcome to another episode of Esoteric Smackdown Superhero Edition. Today we're going to talk about Batman vs. Superman, which opens in just a couple days, and I'm like super duper stoked. The only thing they could do, totally mess up the movie between all the awesomeness that you see within the trailers. Now, I could approach this Esoteric Smackdown from a number of different angles, and I had actually thought that I would take a great deal of length and prove to you that these are actually gods that we're talking about. And so from an astrotheological perspective, when looking at all this stuff, since that's what this channel's about, is learning about the actual archetypes, the things that these things are actually identifying, and then understanding how that applies and looking for the deeper meaning in the story, right? So with Deadpool, we looked at him and we said, wow, here's an alchemist. In Batman versus Superman, what we have is actually layers of meaning here. And we could go to great length exploring all the different layers of meaning. But then that would take this would be like an hour and a half long or longer for sure. And no one wants to watch that. Heavens, that just, I don't even want to make it. I want to think about making it. It'd just be so long. So instead, what I'm going to do is I've supplied some clips to help capture for you the idea that I'm trying to bear resonance to. And that is that in the movie Batman versus Superman, this is what you will probably see unfold, okay? On one level, we are looking at a representation of the two pillars within the Kabbalah. Now, there's three, of course, the pillar of mildness in the center, where the Alchemist resides within Tippereth, right? But on the two sides, we have the two pillars. We have the pillar of mercy on the left, and we have the pillar of severity on the right. And so I've identified in that opening sequence that one of these guys is going to be representative of the pillar of mercy and the other representative of the pillar of severity, which gives you additional insights and meaning. But in order to understand that, we have to define some terms. And in order to do that, we need some guidelines. So I'm going to give you the guidelines here real quick. There's only 4, and don't get all caught up with them because, guidelines, it's sort of, they're rules, but they're really kind of guidelines.
The code is more what you call guidelines than actual rules.
If you get hung up on the details, you're going to miss the big picture, all right? So here they are. Ready? Guideline number 1. Pay attention to detail. Take note of the context wherein the characters are drawn. While we as an audience may be focused solely on action involving the main characters in frame or on the screen, the truth is that everything on the screen is important. Everything. Pay attention to detail all the time, every time. Guideline 2. Simplicity is the key. Take note of the actions of the characters in question. What do they do? How do their actions define them? The donning of a themed costume is perhaps the most significant action a hero or villain takes, for it defines them, their power, their mission, their ethos, and their limitations. Every act thereafter is a reflection of this first act, which was to assume the role of a costumed hero or villain. And remember, pay attention to detail, all the time, every time.
Everything you need to find him is right there in those pages. Read Marcus Aurelius. Of each particular thing, ask, what is it in itself? What is its nature? What does he do, this man you see?
It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me.
Guideline number 4. Keep an astrotheological perspective. The greater play that is being portrayed has to do with astrotheological archetypes, which represent the 7 astrological planets: the Sun, Mercury, Venus, the Moon, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Identifying which expression of divinity is being portrayed will move you quickly on the path to discovering who the secret identity of the hero or villain in question actually is. Okay, so now that you've got that under your belt, and you totally got this guideline thing going on here, and that you should be looking for deeper things, deeper aspects, deeper meaning, we can briefly take a look at each of these heroes and what they specifically represent. But in order to understand who they represent, we really need to be convinced of the fact that they are in fact representing gods, and not some rich guy in a bat suit, or some alien guy in a red and blue and gold suit, or whatever, right? Or an Amazon woman in her swimsuit. Either of these, not adequate, really, not adequate to describe what they actually embody. And of course, Batman, within the Nolan series, identifies himself as more than just a person.
People need dramatic examples to shake them out of apathy, and I can't do that as Bruce Wayne. As a man, I'm flesh and blood. I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible. I can be everlasting.
What symbol?
Something elemental, something terrifying.
That he's a thing, he's an idea, and the idea can't be killed, and that's the whole thing. This is part of it. So what is the idea that's being presented here? Well, in order to understand the difference, we need to hold the two in juxtaposition to each other and have them bear witness as to who and what they are. But first, let's take a look and see exactly what kind of gods these guys are.
I believe people are no longer afraid of us.
Or that they think we're a team. We're not a team, but I am pleased to meet some folks who get me.
Yes, it was good to walk among a pantheon again.
How do you mean?
Hades, Apollo, Hermes, Hephaestus, Zeus, each a god in their own right.
And me?
I have never met anyone like you, Superman. God or mortal.
Now that is a great clip from a movie that I'm going to be reviewing shortly. It's available on Netflix. Short review, awesome. So, and the movie is Justice League War. So awesome, I actually bought the DVD some time ago, just because it's awesome. So let's take a look at the characteristics that are required relative to mercy and compassion. They are not the same. And so for the purposes of definition, let's define them as such. Compassion is rendered by someone who has actually experienced a similar or exactly the same sort of thing, usually associated with a loss or limitation. And as a result, they have empathy for the other person. They are compassionate. And so, meaning that they share in the struggle, right? And as a result of compassion, often the scales of justice can be ameliorated. They'll be leveled as a result of that. What justice and the goddess Ma'at and our justice system itself will not tolerate is mercy robbing justice. Now, mercy is different than compassion. Mercy does not require you to understand the person to whom you are being merciful towards. You don't have to have any identifiers whatsoever. An act of mercy means that you are more powerful, that you are invulnerable to those kind of trials, and therefore, if you are capable of offering aid or assistance or amelioration or whatever, intervention usually, then it's an act of mercy.
Next time they shine your light in the sky, don't go to it. The bat is dead. Bury it. Consider this mercy.
Tell me. Do you bleed? You will.
Now here's the difference, and this is how to place the two into the two pillars. The pillar of severity is the one that literally understands compassion, because the idea of understanding resides within the pillar of severity. On the other hand, on the pillar of mercy, in this case, you do not have compassion at all, you just have mercy. It's this clearly identified, and its source is then wisdom. So the idea of wisdom is you may not necessarily have undergone the things that someone else has undergone, but you are wise enough to understand that an act of mercy would be appropriate, right? Now, in terms of our celestial beings that are then being represented, we have Saturn clearly identified under Binah as heading the pillar of severity. And so any archetype that resides under that pillar, or any archetype that absorbs or adopts attributes from that pillar, will be identified also with Saturnian archetype. Got it? On the other side, we have the Sun representing the pillar of mercy. And the Sun is representing it under Chokmah, and it is functioning as an agent of cosmic presence. So the cosmic presence then acts as a merciful conduit of power. And underneath that we have Jupiter, which is a unification or a combination between the material essence that is Saturn and the cosmic essence that is the Sun. Jupiter is the nearest physical giant body that is closest to ourselves. We being of Saturnian origin, meaning materially, this body, this planetary body, was not generated by this star, but it was captured by this star as a satellite of Saturn, which was Kronos, so Proto-Saturn, Kronos. That will help you identify a lot of this stuff, okay, as you're looking at it. So Jupiter then fulfills an additional role. In Hinduism, Jupiter then is identified as Vishnu, Saturn is identified as Brahma, and Shiva is identified as the sun. So a child that is powered by the sun, is energized by the sun, whose consciousness is fueled by the sun, would then seek to be energized by the sun, and that is in fact what Superman ultimately can do automatically from birth.
More powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings at a single bound, this amazing stranger from the planet Krypton, the Man of Steel, Superman. Empowered with X-ray vision, possessing remarkable physical strength, Superman fights a never-ending battle for truth and justice, disguised as a mild-mannered newspaper reporter, Clark Kent.
Clark Kent is how Superman views us. And what are the characteristics of Clark Kent? He's weak. He's unsure of himself. He's a coward. Clark Kent is Superman's critique on the whole human race.
So Superman, unlike Bruce Wayne, they're very similar. Bruce Wayne is born into material awesomeness, right? He's born into a billionaire status with a wide variety of things already established for him. Superman is born into material poverty, essentially, right? A common farmer in Kansas, and then evolves into physical superiority. Where Superman falls flat, and where I identify him as a failed alchemist, is because he's just like us. Materially, he's alien from this world, but now he's switched it up consciously and is absorbing the electromagnetic radiation that is exactly the same as the kind of radiation that exists within your conscious process, and that incorporates every possible aspect of your body and its function. Superman is enlivened like we are by this star. He's simply taken it to the next level, but he falls short. And where he falls short is where Lex Luthor takes advantage of him. And that is the introduction of kryptonite. Superman, because his solar plexus being gold, he's powered it up and he's good to go. But he's never actually really raised it up, really pulled it up a notch. Batman, on the other hand, while being born materially into this, has proven himself to take every possible skill set, evolve every possible aspect of his mind and his body and his spirit, so that he is literally the quintessential best at what he does, whether it be detective investigations, whether it be in martial arts, all these categories that we attribute to Batman and his technical knowledge. We forget that, unlike Iron Man, who just gets in the suits and blows shit up, Batman actually is a skilled fighter. And the difference, again, between Batman and Superman, every time Batman gets into a fight, it is literally a fight for his life, and he has to employ what I would say is the Deadpool slogan, maximum effort. He can never, ever, ever risk showing restraint. Severity, that's the pillar of severity, because it understands the consequence of half measures. Superman has never ever really, until like the movies come along, but pragmatically, every time Superman rolls into a fight, he's thinking, here's another dude that's, what's he going to bring to this? A bullet, a missile, some kind of sound thing, and he crushes it. In fact, this is a great fight. Here, check this out. This is another reason why I love Justice League War. Ready? Check out this fight scene between Superman and Batman.
Wait here. I got this. No offense. You just get in the way. Here's the plan. Green Lantern kicks Superman's ass. TMZ's got the video.
So, what can you do? I can still see you. The creature that attacked me had one of those boxes you have. A friend of yours, I assume? He blew up, so I'll ask you. What are these boxes for? Talk while you still can.
trying to.
Round 2, Flyboy.
Lantern, no!
Chains? You're funny.
We won't stop him. He's pissed off. We have to talk to him.
Talk to him?
Lantern, focus. You stop concentrating and that shield breaks apart.
Shut up. This guy's gonna kill us.
No, he won't. You bruise, but you don't kill, do you? Clark.
You've made your point. Bruce Wayne.
Now, you're probably going to see that fight scene displayed again in this movie, and you're going to see the evolution of that fight, which takes place right here. Okay, I totally want to give you some clips here because I mind these bad boys, and they're just awesome. They're just great, and they perfectly exhibit what I'm showing you, which is the second fight scene, of course, is drawn from Frank Miller's Dark Knight, which has an animated sequence, and you'll notice that in the trailers, Batman actually gets suited up just like he does when he's in the final battle in the Dark Knight against Superman. Now, keep in mind, well, here, let's watch this clip. Ready? Here you go.
Clark. This is between you and me.
We don't have to do this.
Sure we do.
Bruce, be reasonable. You know what my orders are.
Your orders? You say you answer to some sort of authority. They only want me dead because I'm an embarrassment. Because I do what they can't. What kind of authority is that?
It doesn't matter. It's their world and they won't stand for you anymore. If it isn't me, it'll just be someone else.
Really? Who do they send after you?
This is idiotic. That was 3 ribs, Bruce. Don't make me do this. doing? Do you want me to kill you?
Oh, you're not going to kill me. Now! It wasn't easy to make, Clark. It took years and cost a fortune. Luckily, I had both. You're feeling it now, aren't you? What the rest of us live with every day. Your own mortality. Don't worry, you'll survive. The kryptonite will work its way out of your lungs soon enough.
Bruce, your heart.
But I didn't have to go easy on you. A different binding agent, a stronger mix. I want you to remember that. I wanted to remind you to stay out of my way. In all the years to come, in your most private moments, I want you to remember the one man who beat you.
Bruce!
So you can see literally every time Batman gets into a fight, it can be possibly a fight for his life, whereas when Superman gets into a fight, it's almost always a foregone conclusion because it's not like kryptonite is just rolling around. You gotta go find it, you need to know what you've discovered, and you need to find Superman vulnerable in a moment where you can employ it. All of that's a big, expensive, iffy proposition. What do you need to take out the Batman? Well, you know, a long-range rifle. The fight's over, right? If someone wanted to just, like, do it, it would be all over. And so the Batman has to prepare for that. Now, there are aspects of each of their uniforms which are telling as to the nature and emblematic nature of their consciousness. Remember that each one of them are assuming a kind of role. With regard to Superman, Wonder Woman says that
I have never met anyone like you, Superman. God or mortal.
he is something else, right? And what kind of something else? Well, he is in fact Horus, the mediator, as we see in this one clip. Check it out. His placement between the sun, the earth, and a person is exactly the mediatory effect that Jupiter has employed both cosmically within our solar system, rectifying and settling things as it does, and also representative of our feeling, our relationship with the ultimate divine, right? The idea of the highest expression of consciousness in our immediate area, highest expression of electromagnetism that is projective in our immediate area, and it's right up there in the sky. And everything here depends on that. So a force that could mediate between that hugely powerful, life-giving and destructive force is something that we would seek after. But again, a force like that, it doesn't understand what it's like to be vulnerable and to be limited. Saturn understands limitation because Brahma, as Saturn, builds limitation into the creation. It's part of what it is, right? So when you go outside and you see a world that seems to be without limitation, in other words, it's highly competitive and whatever survives, and then you meditate and you look inside of your body, you meditate inwards and you say, where is my limitation? You're like, well, the order of my cells, thank heavens, is limited so that my lungs just stay there and my pancreas is here and my liver is here and my heart's there and nothing grows outside of where it's supposed to. And if that limitation is broken, if it's messed up, now you've got cancer, right? Where it's now detrimental to the organism. So these are all ideas that then archetypally are represented by this one movie. So there are four main characters in this movie, wrapping this up for you. We have Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Lex Luthor. Doomsday is an expression of Lex Luthor's power, and we could talk about Zod for just a minute. Zod is what I consider he's like Batman. He exceeds what Superman does in rapid order fashion, and it's kneel before Zod! Because he was bred to it, of course, and because he had spent literally his entire life, like Batman, exceeding his limitations, one right after the other, right after the other, right after the other.
Kneel before Zod!
So when he finally learns to fly in that fight, here, check it out.
I was bred to be a warrior, Cal. Trained my entire life to master my senses. Where did you train? On a farm?
If you love these people so much, you can mourn for them. Don't do this! Stop! Never.
So when he finally learns how to fly in that fight, you can see not only is he rising up after casting his armor off, but everything around him is influenced by his electromagnetic presence. He knows how to work the system, and if he had just been given more time, he would have exceeded Superman and definitely been a threat, for sure, because he would have understood the necessity of exceeding the bounds and limitations which you have been given, to recognize that those are an illusion cast by the ego, representative of everything that would contain you when you need to exceed it all. So the fourth character then is Lex Luthor. So we have Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Lex Luthor. We know that Batman and Wonder Woman are tied together mythologically through the planet Saturn by recognizing that Wonder Woman also represents Isis. And as a result, Isis is also tied to Saturn, as is Osiris. It's part of what I explained in other videos as looking at the planetary union of brother, sister, husband, wife combinations, which are generally unproductive, and where when an outside influence is then engaged and the planet functions as a masculine attribute, like Zeus and Hera, which is Jupiter, then Hera becomes upset because Zeus is a philanderer creating other children, right, which are satellites in orbit around Jupiter itself. Similarly, you get the same kind of dynamic going on between Isis and Osiris, who are incapable of procreating until the fourth character in the ultimate dynasty, the Egyptian dynasty of Isis, Osiris, Set, and Nephthys. In this case, you have Isis, Osiris, Set, and Horus. And because we're dealing with the children, the progeny, we're moving, Nethys hasn't been introduced yet. So in this case, Lex Luthor has reddish hair.
Do you know the oldest lie in America, Senator? The devils don't come from hell beneath us.
You can identify him with Set because Set himself is also Nethys. They're both the only two gods with red hair. The rest have lapis lazuli hair or blue hair. And of course the antagonist is the one who sets the protagonist into action. So the protagonist in an electric universe idea in an alchemical process then becomes a receptive body to the antagonism of the antagonist, which is agitating the system and causing change. This is exactly a representation then of the star, our sun, within the static Saturnian system in its early history, right? Where suddenly that stable system of perfection where everything worked together suddenly gets broken up like a literally, and the game of pool is representative of this process, white ball, 15 other balls in a perfect triangle, right? Held stationary and perfect exactly where they go, and boom, the white ball hits the systems and breaks everything up. That literally is a visual example of the electric universe dynamic put into game format. And it also is an example of what will happen in this story where Lex is constantly going to be the one who's going to be initiating all of this tension. In one way or another, he's going to be the dynamism that makes that go. And that's why discussions of Doomsday is really not necessarily relevant at this point because that becomes an expression of his will. All right, so in review, this is what you're looking at in Batman versus Superman. You are seeing a play of two things. One, the two pillars within the Kabbalistic tree of life, which are representative of planetary bodies. And so in this conflict, what we are going to see is the planet Saturn set against the Jupiter, and the sun causing all this activity to be going on until at last Saturn and Jupiter then team up. This dynamism, by the way, this dynamic can be described as Brahma and Vishnu versus Shiva, or a Jedi and his apprentice versus a Sith Lord, who would be the sun. It just goes on, like this two versus one. It happens so often. It's so beautiful. And you can teach these kind of concepts just by identifying and going, okay, these are the characters. And when you watch them act now, and you realize that Lex Luthor is kind of doing what Set would do, and when you realize that Wonder Woman is a fantastic representation of Isis as warrior, goddess, and protector, and when you see Superman engage in his absolutely insane conduct as a godman on Earth. I mean, oh my gosh, he is just epic.
You know you can't win this. It's suicide.
The greatest gladiator match in the history of the world. Son of Krypton versus Bat of Gotham.
You're psychotic.
That is a three-syllable word for any thought too big for little minds.
It's time you learn what it means to be a man.
Stay down! If I wanted it, you'd be dead already.
And Batman, as the quintessential person, right? He's the ultimate, he's the magician. He's the one who, when he can't, the reason why he's the magician is because he foresees using Prometheus, forethought, what could possibly happen, and that symbol of his forethought is emblazoned about his belt, or emblazoned around his waist as a golden belt, right? Filled with whatever the heck he needs at any time he might need it. Because, why?
Because I'm Batman!
Because he's Batman. That's right. All right. I hope this was kind of fun for you. It was fun for me to do. There's so much stuff that we can talk about when it comes to the comic books, especially dealing with the Justice League characters. Because DC Comics, the reason why I think it kind of bores some people is because they really, really, really try their hardest to remain absolutely true and consistent to the mythological archetypes they represent. And so when you look and you see the Flash delivering a message to Batman in Flashpoint Paradox,
Yes, a gift.
This is my father's handwriting. You're one hell of a messenger. Thank you.
Which I thought was another awesome movie we'll be reviewing later. And Batman, at the end, he gets the note and he says, "You're quite a messenger." That's because he's Hermes, the messenger of the gods, and you can learn a lot then by studying the Flash and what he does and what powers he has. But we'll talk about him some other time. This was about Batman and Superman, about the Pillar of Severity, which understands compassion, and the Pillar of Mercy, which basically just understands mercy and what it is like to be powerful. And if it does show mercy, if it does, that's an expression often of what it loves, right? Because it's trying to preserve those things. Okay, that was it. We got through this. I can't believe it. Stay tuned. We'll be definitely doing a lot more this week. I definitely more Ask an Alchemist coming, Alchemy Journal coming up, more stuff to talk about. And definitely I'm going to give you a reaction review on Batman versus Superman, because obviously I love this stuff. I do. I love it. It's so beautifully done, so often. It's so powerful that truly when you know what you're watching, it can be a moving experience. All right, I'll talk to you later. You guys have a wonderful day. I'm Aubrey Forrest, the Modern Alchemist, and this is Esoteric Smackdown Superhero Edition, Batman vs. Superman. Talk to you later.